Rob Manfred, our beloved Major League Baseball commissioner, I say that with tongue firmly in cheek,
There you go.
is set to be reelected as the commissioner. Now, I thought this was funny because I forgot that they were like that he's not just like commissioner for life, until he decides
Right.
not to be, or until the owners officially get together and be like, "You're done," right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, up for re-election, he's expected to be reelected. I wonder if it's mostly because it's one of those things where it's like everybody else is like, "I don't want your job."
Nobody wants that job right now.
Yeah, no chance, absolutely
No.
no chance. But so before we get into the job that he's done, let's look at a few of the things that he's responsible for, like kind of like how he's done since he's been the commissioner.
Yeah.
And so
I
he's
think
been commissioner.
This is important.
It is, because we kind of laugh and joke, and there's a whole man clown thing and everything like that. But it's been a lot, and it's been a long road because it's been 8.5 years.
Yeah.
Because
And his contract was through 2025 anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's expected to be reelected at the earliest possible convenience, at the earliest that his contract allows a renegotiation.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. So he became commissioner in January of 2015, and he was responsible for negotiating the 2020 COVID season, which this is the thing is like that felt like a fiasco, right? From our perspective. But the longer we've been removed from it, I don't necessarily want to cut him some slack or even like the players, but I get it a little bit more. Like looking back on it, there were a lot more moving pieces that were involved with that and everything else than what we thought, especially with like the unknowns with COVID at the time, right?
For sure.
That had to have been way harder to get done than we thought when we were just like, just go out there and freaking play baseball. They want to play, let them play,
Yeah.
But
I agree. And I would say that getting through that with any measure of success deserves some credit, honestly.
Right. Yeah.
And I think we can say that it went beyond small measures of success. As far as we are concerned, for me especially, what was possible for the 2020 season, the way they handled it, when they started it, what they kept and what they cut, I would call it a success. It's not ideal, but it was a success.
That's what I was just going to say. It wasn't perfect. I do think there were a lot of aspects that could have been done a lot better from the start of like negotiating through the execution of even the World Series, right?
Yes.
Because I felt like by the time they got to the World Series, it's like all the rules were out the window because it's like, well, nobody's going to get suspended, nobody's going to get in trouble, right? So it's just like, whatever. But we've also seen the juiced ball era under Rob Manfred because Major League Baseball purchased Rawlings and was regulating the manufacture of baseballs. And for some reason, they decided to wrap them tighter or something like that. So we saw juiced baseballs.
And then there may have been 3 different types of baseballs being used.
Yeah, and it's absolutely bananas that that's even a thing that's going on still to this day.
Who knows?
Possibly. He mandated that teams start reporting accurate attendance. And the thing that's funny about that is that that's something that we learned like directly from talking with David Sampson. And that's something he talks about all the time, right?
Yeah.
Is that Bud Selig was like, we want to make it look like people are in the ballparks. It's like, well, no, like people know how many people are or are not there. So we might as well be honest. And I think that's actually pretty cool. And now that numbers are going up, it has more of an impact.
Fact.
He was the one who implemented this year's rule changes and also carried over the rules of what they're calling the Manfred ban that goes for on second extra innings. And it's interesting because of how mixed those things have been received. People saying, who was it? David Wells recently called Manfred a tool and said he hates baseball because of these rules that he's implemented.
Yeah.
The more
that's pretty rough.
It is pretty brutal, but the more and more I see things, it's like I don't feel like that's necessarily the case. Does he absolutely have a high understanding of baseball? Maybe not, right? Because he's a businessman and a lawyer first, so maybe he does love the game of baseball, and his knowledge and in-depth, I guess his in-depth knowledge and understanding of baseball has come on the professional level rather than before, right?
Sure. Yeah. Which is fine.
Entirely possible. So he doesn't have a great grasp on some of the rules and some on what the hardcore baseball people love. But I don't know. That's just, I guess, guessing, right?
I think we're too close to some of those. They're not panned out yet. Like
Right.
you mentioned the 2020 season, we are far enough removed. But before that, I think up until maybe even now-ish, we did not look upon that with any sort of favorable assessment. And, it's been long enough. So let's
Yeah.
give this more time before we really come down on it.
Yeah. Right. And that's exactly how I feel about it. And I do feel like the way that they're testing rules in the minor leagues and the independent leagues is the way it should be done.
That's brilliant. Yeah,
I love that they're doing that. They're not just throwing stuff out in spring training and being like, what do you guys think?
Totally.
Pretty good, huh?
Yeah.
That they have guys who get to experiment with it, get to understand it, get to really learn how to play the game with it. And then they come to the big leagues and they're like, this is no big deal. I've been playing like this for 5 years.
Well, and
however long.
from an organizational perspective, it's data-driven decision making. It's not hunches. It's not, let's put this in place and run with it. It's a crawl, walk, run thing. And in the military, that's what we do: crawl, walk, run. So you start off with something and you baby step it, and then you advance, pick up the pace, put it at a higher level, whatever it takes until it's implemented fully. And that's what Major League Baseball has done with these rule changes, starting at the very bottom with the, South Atlantic League and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think it makes perfect sense to do it that way. So, Brig, I'm curious, if you had to give Rob Manfred a grade for how he's done to this point, what would you give him?
C plus, B minus, somewhere in there.
That's actually, I was thinking that exactly. Like, a year ago, I'd have probably done like a D plus, C minus.
Yeah.
Right? But like a little bit of perspective and a little bit of removal from COVID and seeing how things are playing out, and things are actually going really well, and that things are not the way that I thought they were going to be, I'd definitely say B minus, C plus on a bad day.
Here's the problem. I hate the Ghost Runner, the Manfred man, the X-Man.
Right. I hate that it's in the 10th. That needs to be later.
Yeah, I hate it. And I sort of hate it all the way around, but your assessment that between like after the 12th sometime, I think is spot on. But he called the World Series trophy, the Commissioner's Trophy, a piece of metal. That's never going to be, I mean, I don't know how you can forgive him for that, but that's way more petty than failing to punish anybody associated with cheating. And he's set a precedent that is super dangerous for him. And it honestly is going to take a different commissioner in a different situation, for that to change, because he almost pinned himself in a corner and can't come out. Yeah. So I worry about his extension with regard to that, because he is going to, if he does decide, okay, I screwed up and now I'm going to swing hard the other direction, it's just going to make him look worse. And
it's kind of like the way that I see it with the piece of metal thing and the whole thing with the Astros is that, like, you go through college and you have your professor gives you the syllabus for the entire semester, and there's a project that's worth 50 points midway through, right? And you don't do it, you get a 0. There's you can only recover to a certain point. Manfred got a 0 on that, so he can only recover to a certain point.
That's right.
So
that's a great analogy.
So anyway,
he'll never rise above a B plus.
Exactly right. There are not enough points in this system for him to rise above a B plus, because he just didn't do it. That was due today, Rob.
That was due today. Oh no.